Who are you when nobody's telling you who to be? There is a crisis happening quietly. You won't always see it in the streets. You won't always see it in classrooms. You won't see it in photographs. But you can see its consequences. A generation of young people asking, who am I? And sometimes they are answering that question with whatever the world gives them: a trend, a celebrity, a friend, a group, a number on screen, a lifestyle they saw online, a career somebody else chose for them, a definition of success they never examined. And slowly, people begin building lives around identities they never consciously chose. That is the identity crisis. The strange thing about growing up today is previous generations had influence too. But today, a young person doesn't simply grow up around a family, school, and a community. They can wake up and encounter thousands of people even before breakfast. Different opinion, different lifestyle, different definition of beauty, different definitions of success, different religions, different careers, different values, different versions of what it means to be somebody. And when you see enough versions of life, you can start forgetting to ask, which one is actually mine? So people start borrowing identities. But you see someone successful and suddenly you want their life. You see someone wealthy and suddenly money becomes your definition of worth. You see someone popular and suddenly attention becomes your definition of importance. You see someone admired and suddenly imitation feels like identity. But there is a problem with borrowed identity. It has never been tested against who you actually are. You can spend years becoming impressive and eventually discover that you have built a life that doesn't belong to you. Now, this is where the crisis becomes expensive because identity affects decisions. If you believe you are incapable, you behave differently. If you believe you need somebody's approval, you behave differently. If you believe your value depends on popularity, you behave differently. If you believe success means looking successful, you behave differently. And eventually, your repeated decisions become your life. So identity isn't just philosophical question, it is practical. Who you believe you are influences what you permit, pursue, tolerate, and become. Now, the world would gladly give you an identity. And this is something every young person needs to understand. The world does not leave the question of your identity empty. Something will fill it. If you don't define your values, someone else will influence them. If you don't develop your own thinking, someone else will think for you. If you don't determine what success means to you, the marketplace will sell you a definition. If you don't decide what deserves your attention, something else will compete to take it. That is why identity requires responsibility. But here's the part we often miss. Finding yourself isn't simple, isn't simply asking, what do I like? Because your preference is changing. Instead, ask, what kind of person do I want to become? What do I stand for? What will I refuse to compromise? What responsibility am I willing to carry? What problem do I care enough to solve? What values will guide my decision when nobody is watching? What kind of person can someone depend on me to be? Now you are moving beyond personality, you are building character. Your identity is not your follower count. It is not your grade. It is not your clothes. It's not your phone. It's not your neighborhood. It is. It is not your popularity. It is not your mistake. It is not even your current circumstances. Those things may describe parts of your life, but they don't have to define the person you are becoming. And this distinction matters because when circumstances change, a person with no internal foundation collapses with them. A person who knows their values can adapt without losing themselves. Now, this is the danger of constant comparison. Comparison doesn't just make people feel inadequate, sometimes it makes them forget themselves completely. You start measuring your beginning against somebody else's middle, their opportunities against your limitation, their personality against yours, their journey against yours. And eventually, you stop asking, what can I build? and start asking, why don't I look like them? That is a dangerous exchange because your assignment is not to become another person. Your assignment is to discover what you can build with what you have been given. So, what does a builder do? A builder learns to pause before copying, before following, before choosing a career. Because everybody says it is prestigious before chasing money. Because everybody says money equals success. Before changing yourself to fit into a room, you stop and ask, is this actually me? Not will people like it? Not will people clap? Not is everyone doing it? But does this agree with the person I am intentionally becoming? That question can save years of your life. Now build your identity before your image. We live in an age where people can construct an image before they construct a character. You can create a profile before you know yourself. You can build a personal brand before you build personal discipline. You can look successful before learning responsibility. You can have thousands of people watching you while you've never learned how to lead yourself. So don't rush to build an image. Build the person first because eventually your image will have to be supported excuse me, by your character. The four questions. If you are young and watching this, write this down. One, what do value? Not what is trending. Two, take responsibility because identity without responsibility is just a label. Three, what am I becoming good at? Because potential needs development. Four, what problem do I want my life to help solve? Because purpose becomes clearer when you begin looking beyond yourself. Don't expect these questions to be answered in one afternoon. You are building. A builder don't panic because the building isn't finished. They keep laying the foundation. And to the parents, teachers, leaders, maybe the question isn't only what career will this child choose? Maybe we should also ask, who is this child becoming? Because we can teach young people mathematics, science, technology, business, and countless other skills and still fail to teach them how to know themselves. A successful career cannot compensate for an undeveloped character. We shouldn't only prepare young people to make a living, we should prepare them to live deliberately. I call it intentional. The world doesn't need more copies, it needs people who know who they are, people who can think, people who can learn, people who can disagree without losing themselves, people who can enter a room without needing the room to validate them, people who can lead themselves before attempting to lead others, people who can say, this is popular, but this isn't for me. This is difficult, but it's worth doing. Everyone is going there, but my responsibility is somewhere else. That is maturity. That is identity. That is building. Now, one final thought. One day, the noise will become quieter. The trends will change. The people you are trying to impress may disappear from your life. The numbers may go up and down. The applause may come and go. And when the noise becomes quiet, you will still have to live with yourself. So don't spend your youth desperately trying to become somebody. Spend it discovering, developing, and building the person you were capable of becoming. You don't need to have your entire life figured out today, but you do need to start asking better questions. Who am I? What value can I add? What am I building? Who will I become if I keep living the way I'm living now? Because your future self is not waiting somewhere to magically appear. You are building that person right now. And this is the people builder. Don't just find yourself, build yourself.